What is cracking, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
Probably mostly gentlemen. This is podcast 56.
Hey.
Specktators podcast. I'm Packy here with Q.
What's happening?
Dags. Moti.
Scooty.
Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit that bell if you're fucking with it. Hit the thumbs up if you're digging it. We're trying to hit that 125. You know, really out here grinding.
125.
$1.25.
Per usual, if you hit the super chat and the live pod, Mo will take a peek at your questions, and if they're worthy, we may discuss.
But we will read.
So, if you listen to the last podcast, we got into the Chuck E. Cheese debate,
Right.
and the conspiracy theory behind their hot pies, and being the journalists that we are, we decided to get one ourselves. Q stopped on his way over here and grabbed a hot pie from Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see how this thing looks.
Hell yeah.
So Mo, without further ado,
All right.
why don't or one of us? I don't give a shit.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Probably Mo.
No one's seen it yet.
No
one's
taking a look.
That's some cheese bread right there. You know what I'm saying? That's some crazy ass cereal we gonna talk about later.
Oh!
Thought he almost dropped that.
We gotta unbox this.
Yeah,
as
on
a
camera.
squad on camera.
Here, let me see that.
Yeah,
shit.
it's easy. Give it to Q. Yeah. All right.
Hey, y'all see this?
Moment of truth.
All right, you see the man on here.
The mouse, the smouse.
The man, the mouse, the legend. You ready?
Yeah.
Shit.
Let's see this dumbass thing.
This is stuffed crust pizza, by the way.
That's a beautiful pie.
Yeah, see, that looks...
Here, move your
that looks
mic
good.
for a second. There you go.
Now,
That thing looks round as a basketball.
I love stuffed crust, so I'm not mad at you getting stuffed crust.
Yeah.
It might have thrown off the experiment a bit because how many random stuffed crust pieces they got sitting around?
I mean, look at that piece right there is like way the fuck up. Just that one.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
a
that
little
is
bit.
weird.
They cut them all crazy.
All the other ones look pretty good though.
But it looks like a quality pie.
And I will also say,
How was the service? No, go ahead. Go
slow
ahead.
as
with
a
what you're
bitch.
saying.
Yo, and there was nobody in there, but
Guaranteed.
the girl recommended the stuffed crust. So I was like, okay, if you recommend something,
Maybe because the other shit.
that's what I'm saying.
She
Like,
saw you coming. She listened to the podcast, yeah.
I called like earlier in the day, and I'm like, so how do I get a pizza? Do I gotta like play, or do I gotta like not call? I thought you could like order over the phone. You can. You gotta go in there.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's
Go in,
wild.
order, and then wait. And
That's enough to
That's
bring them
what I
down
do.
right there.
yeah, shit looks fire though. I ain't gonna lie.
Do I gotta, like, play?
Yeah.
That's what I asked him to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
based off this.
There's only
They're-
one piece that
they're
was on the
good.
floor.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a skinny ass piece. So we about to eat this.
Yeah. Get at it if you want.
Yeah, do it.
One bite challenge.
First things first from the weekend. Oh, you gonna do the 1 bite challenge? What the?
Oh my god!
You're a freako, dude. What?
What?
What that mouth do though?
Damn, I wasn't ready for that.
Okay.
Damn. Do I even
Congratulations
want
to Michigan State basketball team.
any? Hey, yay. Out here.
Big Ten champs brought it home against the rivals, U of M, this
Cassius,
weekend.
Big
Yep.
Ten Player of the Year.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to be there. Shit was lit.
You and Dax were there, right?
Ammo.
Ammo?
And I was there.
Dang, I was there too, huh?
You were left out. No, it was crazy in there. But yeah, I think they just released. Cassius got Big Ten Player of the Year, I think. Rightly
Yep.
so. The only other person that could have been is Carson Edwards from Purdue, who is one passing a freaking jack, dude. Like I think he shot less than 40%. Yeah, he's just a hoister.
Less than 40%.
Yeah.
From the field?
Yeah, from the field.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Matt Painter for Purdue got Coach of the Year, which apparently he has 4 Big Ten Coaches of the Year.
Damn.
Wow.
Miss me with that.
How many does Izzo have?
I don't know. Less than that.
Is that like the most?
I think it's top 3 or 4. I know in like Big Ten history.
Damn.
Yeah, which is what's weird. Because like he's a good coach. It just seems weird to have him there already. Like I think he's probably been a coach for maybe like what 10, 11 years, something like that.
I actually don't know that. I wouldn't even have a clue, but he's been there for a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, Purdue they had a good season, and
Yeah,
they weren't expected to, so I can't be mad at that. I think McQuaid got first team all defense.
I thought he wasn't even in the running. Did that change? Was that an old post?
Maybe for defensive player.
Oh yeah,
he was first team.
Oh, got you. Okay.
But yeah, great regular season from the Hoop Squad. I gotta admit, as a State fan, when Ward and Langford went down, I was like, good season, you know. But they put it together, man, and now they got my freaking hopes back up.
Saying Ward's gonna be back for the tourney too.
That's big.
Big Ten tourney.
That's big.
So can't hurt. I mean, depth at that position is always helpful, especially down the stretch.
Yeah,
hope is some shit, ain't it?
Really is.
Yeah,
but you need it.
Yeah.
What the fuck else happened? Anything else crazy?
Wait. What do you think about the pie, Dax?
It was good. That's how you get the calories in quick. You gotta eat so much food before you get full. You have a 15-minute time window to get as many calories in as possible, and then you start feeling full. So anybody trying to gain those L's, that's how you do it.
What's your assessment?
It's straight. It's just cool.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't. I mean, I like it as good as any other pie. I'm not mad about it at all.
Look at this crooked ass pepperoni. What the?
It's a straight pie. I don't know what all the fuss about. A pie is a pie is a pie.
Next time I'm getting
Kinda.
regular.
No, that's absolutely false. I just rolled off the tongue, but
yo, Jack's Frozen is not.
Those are like just dog shit drunk. I'll eat them because I'll eat like pretty much anything, but yeah, gross.
Those are bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I mean it's like literally a cracker with like pizza toppings on it.
So Q, have you tried your chicken and waffles cereal yet?
Mm-mm. We got the box.
I don't know about all that.
Who's it by?
Honey Bunches of Oats.
That's fucking weird. I guess I could see that though.
Honey Bunches of Waffles.
Wow, good one.
Yeah. Some of the shit's
I'm putting this on top of your pizza.
too experimental.
Roshik with the $2 super chat.
Real what?
Says Roshik.
Hey, Roshik. Roshik, my dude. Salute.
He says, tell Q hi.
Ooh.
Did he say is Q or tell Q?
I mean,
Either way, what's good?
How do we
bro?
know it's a guy?
We don't.
Yeah, hello, human.
Because 95% of our fan base is guys.
So there's a chance.
I just made the educated guess.
Hey, shout out Jack Sherwood, my dude. Hey, he's watching. Chicago. What's happening?
All right, so do either one of you two ever listen to Joe Rogan podcast?
Yeah, wow.
Every once in a while.
I never listened to one whole podcast.
Yeah,
I see
they're really
the clips
long.
and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But earlier in the week or whenever it was, it feels like it was a while ago now, but it must have been earlier last week. He had the Twitter CEO on, Jack Dorsey. And I guess a little backstory for those that don't know, he had him on before that, like a month before that or something, and got a bunch of flack for not like pressing him on questions and stuff like that. Like he just kind of let him get some PC shit off and skirt through the interview without pressing on certain issues that Joe Rogan has specifically talked about on his podcast before.
Okay.
So his fans expected him to be like, no, but what's good?
Yeah.
And he didn't. And then he like openly, after that first interview, Rogan openly like apologized and was like, you guys are right, blah, blah. And Jack Dorsey volunteered to come back on and do it again. So that's what happened this last week. And it was funny because they both brought like somebody else in. Like Jack Dorsey brought basically his lawyer in, who whatever she works at Twitter.
She's at Twitter.
Yeah.
She's like the
I forget what her position was. Do you remember?
It was
Mom?
some long ass name, but basically
Yeah.
she's the one that's essentially in charge of like getting
Banning
accounts.
people.
Yeah, getting
Yeah.
accounts banned.
So he brought her, and Joe Rogan brought this other guy, Tim Pool. who basically acted as like Joe's mouthpiece and like went at them on stuff. So even though Joe Rogan and Jack Dorsey were the names, it was like the other two kind of going at it, and it was like respectful and everything, but trying to get to the bottom of shit. And I don't know. I know you watched it, Mo. I guess my main takeaway from it is just like it's scary.
Yes, agreed.
It's scary how much like power these companies have, like Google, like Twitter, just because we have accepted over the last however many years that these digital platforms, these social medias and stuff like that are just, they're going to be our lives. And we have so much shit out there on the internet and they're in control of it.
Yeah.
And like one of the things they said, which wasn't even one of the big issues or anything like that, but it got brought up of like, can you guys see anybody's DMs? And they were like, basically, and I watched this like a week ago, so I don't remember every little thing, but she was basically like, only if we have reason to.
Only if somebody reports the DM.
Okay. So if you were on the receiving end of a DM, you reported it, then they will. Bullshit, yo.
Yeah, I don't believe
Hell no.
Yo, but it's crazy. Like, this podcast gets millions of views, like, every single time that he goes live. And
us?
Yep, us. And she's just like, that's a lie. That's just a straight, and everybody knows that's a lie.
Yeah.
Isn't there a video out there like of somebody kind of undercover?
Yeah, there's an undercover video of somebody having a meeting with a bunch of like programmers and stuff, and they're just like kicking back, having drinks, but they work for Twitter, and it was verified that they did.
Verified.
Well, one of them was like, I've seen more dick pics and DMs than you'd ever want to see in a lifetime.
Yeah, like you're telling me on your platform you don't have access to something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying we have access, like in not so many words, we have access to it, but we don't use it.
Yeah, they were like,
that's never happened in the history of like humanity.
Man,
If you can do it, you got people doing it. Now, I'm sure you don't teach them to do it or tell them to do it.
I mean, I get that, like, just the privacy factor it's just crazy. You know, like how they can control. That part's more scary to me is how they can influence and control things. Like if they just didn't want one side of the story to get out for some reason,
that's the scariest shit.
Then they could make that happen, essentially.
And they talk about it.
But I don't think I don't give a fuck if somebody's reading my DMs personally. I'm not like selling bricks through Twitter DM and shit, you know, like, whereas if you are doing that and you get caught, you're an idiot for one. Yeah. Secondly, like, you should know that, yes, if you're fucking doing something that stupid, then there's a chance that you're gonna.
I totally agree with that, and not like I said,
but that's
afterward.
not scary to me. Like, my life's not that interesting.
Well, and like I said afterward, and I know you definitely are about that shit, and I think we all are. Is like, dude, especially when you're talking about social media stuff and DMs, like there's certain things I've probably texted people that like I wouldn't want to go public and be a thing because it's just whatever. But like DMs and social media usage and stuff, like you got to just assume everything you do on that stuff is going to be like could go out to the universe. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of just got to operate that way.
Well, and you probably agreed to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
To, you know, without even.
Really and that's the thing at the end of the day is we all, it's kind of what I said at the beginning, we've all kind of signed up for this, but we've gotten to a point where we need it, which is what's kind of weird. But I agree with you, and that was the eye-opening thing in listening to these interviews, is that it is crazy that you really do have these basically unelected officials who are the heads of these companies deciding what
you can
say, what is prohibited and what's not. Right. And it's like, I do honestly think for the most part, obviously there's always bad actors, but for the most part, I think they're trying to do the right thing. I don't deny that. I just think their right thing is different than other people's right thing, and that's a slippery slope when you're talking about something that's so powerful.
Especially when it's not law.
Yo, that kind of reminds me of what we were talking about, I think it was last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, when I was talking about how like heads of companies, just like we're talking about, are on Twitter. This is like a person speaking for a company. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing where it's like it's up to each human to decide, like in their moral compass, what should fly, what shouldn't, and everyone has a bias of some sort.
Oh yeah,
everyone.
Exactly.
So it's like Man, anytime you give anyone that much power, it's scary because
Dude, I also didn't even realize, and I'm sure this is common knowledge, like they don't hide this or anything. I just didn't realize it till this, is that you only get Twitter's attention if something gets reported.
Right.
Like that's the only way. You could go tweet some crazy shit, and if nobody reports it, nothing happens. Like nothing even potentially happens.
Right.
And so at least like the type of personality I am, that shit bugs me in and of itself. And I get maybe there's not a better way for them to do it, but I'm not the personality that's going to report somebody's tweet, dude.
right.
And it worries me that the people that are that personality are like dictating who gets banned and who gets looked at and blah, blah, blah.
And that was the whole point of the interview, though, is like, and that's what Joe Rogan is really against as far as the Twitter thing is. The reason why you have that is because the people that can't handle the different opinions and stuff like that are the ones running the platform. Essentially, when it's designed that way.
Right.
Because if you're only banning the people that get reported, then you're only banning the people that one half of the population is offended by.
Right. Now, the other side of that argument is if you don't like the shit that they're saying, then you should report them and blah, blah, blah. But I think like what Joe Rogan is saying and what I would agree with is that even if someone's saying some shit to me, I don't want them taken off of Twitter.
Right.
Like it might give me some type of satisfaction if this dude's really a piece of shit, but like I don't know, it'd have to be some absolutely next level like insane shit.
It seems like to me if those type of people who would report people knew that if I reported you, you could get kicked off, then they would be more likely to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Just regardless. It doesn't matter. Like if you like the messenger, then you'll accept the message, even if you don't really agree with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, the same. I mean, that's it. It's like I don't like this person, so they could be like good morning and be like report because I know
straight up.
You know what I mean?
And then like Twitter would say, okay, well obviously we wouldn't ban them or anything like that. But if you're getting looked at by Twitter consistently, and maybe even like there are certain things that they consider bad. Like, dude, one of the examples they kept going to because it was an easy example, but it's true, is the whole like transgender thing. And how like one woman, and she was like a liberal feminist, but she was I think in a debate on Twitter with somebody, with like a transgender activist, and at one point said men will never be women, something like that, or women will never be men.
Yeah, and
got banned. And so, and it's because Twitter's trying to support like the transgender community, and that's hate speech or whatever. That is not hate speech.
Not under this law. It's not.
Yeah, like I don't.
If you go to Canada, it is.
But so the thought that you can get banned for something like that is like in the meantime we see stuff all over Twitter that's like I'll fucking kill you, like blah blah, and those people are floating around. But someone like trying to have an actual like back and forth with somebody and saying something that is like biologically a fact, and they get banned.
That's what Joe Rogan was saying.
I was just about to ask, is that like his main gripe is just that
his main gripe is two things. It's that you can say something as factual as possible, like a man can never be a woman and a woman can never be a man. Like that's biological. Like that's a undisputed scientific fact. And you can get banned for that.
Don't say undisputed.
It is scientifically it's undisputed. But his point as well is you are feeding this type of mentality by creating echo chambers for yourself by only following people that you agree with. And so therefore you're creating your own reality of the way that the world works.
Well, and then
instead of getting multiple opinions.
And then you have to
people.
think about all the people on Twitter, kids and adults, but mainly you think about kids who haven't like seen so much of the world and blah blah blah, and if they all of a sudden get surrounded by this echo chamber, which credit to Jack Dorsey, he consistently said he's aware that they are creating echo chambers. Yeah. And now the next step is doing something about it, but it's good that he's aware, because then you like if you're a 12-year-old kid on Twitter or 15-year-old kid on Twitter or whatever, and you see something, and that's just an example, like there's other things, but you see something like that like you can have that viewpoint and somebody got banned for it, you're automatically clicking in your head, oh shit, like that's bad. Or if you only see the other side because the other people are banned, it's just weird, man. It's scary.
Well, you're banning the other side. Like that's his whole point. Is like for something that was as factual as that should be a huge red flag to people that you can say that and get banned on Twitter. Like there's a fundamental error that's going on in Twitter judgment that is banning that kind of stuff. I
agree with that side of it, but I also like how do you regulate that? Like, I mean, like obviously someone telling somebody to kill themselves, like that happens 24/7 on Twitter. Like an athlete misses a last second shot, they're like, go kill yourself or whatever. Like that's pretty fucked up.
Agreed.
And saying something like that, is not very fucked up at all.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
No, I think
there's like no perfect way to do it, I guess. And that's where it's just like, I definitely get what you're saying and I agree with it 100%.
Yeah.
But I just don't know like how. I'm trying to think of like a solution and I don't know what it would be.
And I don't think they even in this 3-hour interview came up with like a straight up solution. One thing they said that I agree with is that Joe Rogan's big on like his road to redemption thing. Like, and I think you should have that too, where you don't just get permanently banned from somewhere.
I was about to say,
like you should be able to get back
suspended.
Yeah, well, it's like a 3-strike thing.
Okay.
But then even when she went through some of their cases, like why did this person get banned? And they would read like 3 things.
The 3 strikes.
And it's like,
see, because that's the thing is like
it looks like you're
you
looking
could have 2
for
that
it.
might be legitimate, but then you have one that's like you're kind of like pushing.
And she
pushing
said,
it a little bit, but then you're done.
But she said too, like if you have 2 strikes and they're both really off the beaten path and bad, then your 3rd strike is not going to be as lenient, and that goes for anytime you get in trouble in life.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The principal catches you doing something really bad twice, well then the 3rd time it's not going to have to be as bad for you to get in bigger trouble.
For sure.
But her examples didn't follow that. Though.
Right.
She said that, but then she was giving examples that didn't follow that linear structure.
Well, and the main thing is, it's like, we see Twitter every day, man. Like, there's fucked up shit going on Twitter that's like, that just flies.
Yeah.
And so when you give these, the only thing to me is, I feel like you got to err on the side of not banning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you might have some crazy shit flying out from somebody, and she, I forget her name.
It was like Jaya or something.
Jaya. But she said something like, she loves the phrase, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I like that too. And I think you do have to like, if there's someone out here just like spewing Nazi propaganda, whatever, like, okay, they're on Twitter and maybe a bunch of people would like them banned, but everybody knows this motherfucker's a piece of shit then.
Right.
And like, he's on there, but you know who he is. You see the bullshit he's spewing and you know it's bad, and like,
it's the same thing.
It's kind of like operating in real life. You know what I'm like? There's shitty people all over the place with crazy views on stuff and weird whatever, but you don't just banish them.
Well, and there's a reason why here in the United States we have the First Amendment, which protects us from being. No one is the overall keeper of what should be said and what should not be said. And that's the reason why we have it. So when you're banning somebody off of a platform like Twitter, I have to compare it to, like, let's say the first telephone company, like that. Let's say the telephone company was private when it started out and they were blocking people from making phone calls right off the bat. So like half of the country couldn't make a phone call because of whatever they were saying. They were tapping that.
And
like, would that be cool?
That's where it gets really tricky, is like, I am on the side of like businesses, because Twitter is, somebody just started Twitter.
Right.
Like, it's his company. It's not a government company or something. Like, they can decide to have whatever rules, they want to have.
Yeah.
But then it's like, at what point does something get so big that it needs to be regulated by the government?
That's what I'm.
And I don't know. I'm not arguing one way or another.
I would rather it not be.
I would rather it not be too. It's just an interesting conversation. Like, that's basically what I did the whole 3 hours watching it or whatever. Is it? I didn't necessarily. I do think Twitter bans too many people for questionable things. I do think that. Other than that, it was just an interesting conversation of like, you don't. you know, we just use Twitter every day and do our thing, whatever.
Right.
You don't think about a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes. And I think even in his first interview with Jack Dorsey, didn't Jack Dorsey at one point say, like, if you click on like a popular tweet or something, their algorithm does show certain things close, like replies and stuff closer to the top. And he kept saying, like, based off, you know, we we move negative comments to the bottom. Yeah. He said something like we boost positive comments.
Right.
It's like, that doesn't seem smart. But then there's always slippery slopes. Like, okay, so you do like boost the popular stuff, boost the stuff that's getting more traction. But then it's like you got all these bot farms and stuff like that just like, you know, boost stuff from random area that they're not natural organic boosts. And there's problems with everything. So there's not just a straight up answer.
That's the problem, is there's so many sides to that, and they're all good points. Honestly, like, both sides of those are good points, in my opinion. The problem with it overall, and from what I see and what I would like try and teach my kids or whatever, whenever I have them, is like, don't fucking take Twitter for your everyday life shit. Like, there's better ways to get your information, you know, like, and I even get a lot of information from the news and sports and stuff on Twitter.
Same here.
And I think most people do, but that's a part of, hopefully, like, growing up maybe in that generation, or like we were kind of the generation which we had part of our childhood was without computers and, or not computers, but social media and stuff. And then part of our younger adult life was with
we
it.
remember days dialing up to get on the internet.
Right. So we kind of learned that at first, you know, it was your parents always telling you, like, you can't believe whatever you see on the internet. And now we go to the internet for every single thing that we learn about, pretty much.
Right.
And that's just what you have to keep in perspective, is like, Twitter is any single person on the earth. Like you said, if you were to ask this dude in real life, I wouldn't just listen to whoever off that I met on the street just talking to him and believe him automatically.
And a lot of it is
Twitter's the same way. So use like a reputable source to find your information, or at least read about it on Twitter and then research it with a reputable source, which people don't do, which is the bad part.
Ain't nobody got time for that, they think.
Right. No, right. And I guess you have time for it for you don't have time for it for everything.
Not everything.
And that's that's what I always kind of like. Glow and I talk about this a lot, and I think one of the big things is you can't expect yourself, you can't expect everybody around you to be like fully informed on anything.
No, for sure.
But at the same time, just be open to learning something, and try not to go around like spouting off strong opinions when they're not informed.
Exactly.
Give your opinion. I'm not saying it's not like, don't give your opinions, but there's people that take really strong stances on this guy is a rapist. Oh, what do you know about the case? Not shit. Like, that's the stuff I'm saying, that like, if you're going to take a strong stance, just be and I'm not saying you got to know everything. Maybe someone will change your mind even after you take a strong stance, but just think about it a little more.
And I think to the point why this whole thing scared me a little bit is not for all of like the banning or like Twitter is real life or anything like that. It's literally just that you can easily get caught up in a world on Twitter that, like what you said, give your opinion. No one says that you can't have an opinion. But where it becomes dangerous is when you're constantly interacting with a world that is affirming your opinion, regardless of what the rest of the world thinks, because you have made that echo chamber for yourself, then it becomes dangerous.
Dude, I actually think about that a lot on Twitter, just on my feed. Like, every day there are people that I follow that I'm like, why do you follow them, dude? You disagree with every one of their opinions.
Yes, for sure.
But at the same time, I always check myself and I'm like, dude, it's a good thing that you see this, though. Like, because if you just surrounded yourself and clicked follow on people that you agreed with everything on, that's all you're going to see every day when you log on. And it's like, there are other sides to these things.
Yeah.
And if you see them and disagree with them and know why you disagree with them, great. That's fine. People can disagree.
Right.
But if you only expose yourself to one side of things, that's when it gets dangerous. And I think we all risk that a lot. Like we all fall into that sometimes.
Yeah, especially like that's the danger of social media. And that's what scared me is like you can do one thing, which is like to follow a diverse amount of people with differing opinions. But when you're talking about something like Twitter, where they're literally openly saying that because they said this, they're getting banned for it. It's like you're not even giving the opportunity for the other opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what scared me the most is it's like, dude, especially for statements like men can never be women.
Yeah. Because there are some she gave where it's like, okay, even if I disagree that these people should be banned, do better on not saying crazy shit.
Yeah, there's always going to be different
yeah.
cases, for
like,
sure.
Yeah, I don't agree that you should be banned from Twitter, but at the same time, like, you wouldn't catch me dead just saying some of this shit either. So I feel less bad for you.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know. Like, whether you agree with the statement or not, like, the statement in and of itself seems like not ban.
No, yeah,
like,
I know. And they would make the claim that, you know, well, there were within the back and forth, there were two other, you know, strikes, and this was another strike. This was the third strike, whatever. But it was like they had an agenda. This person was going against it, and they banned him. That's what it was, and that's the scary shit.
Even the other two, I don't know if you did anymore because I don't think they got into that on the podcast itself. The other two tweets, what they were, and it was not
anything crazy.
No, it was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. I've even found like doing research on certain things for this podcast, like, or not even for the pod, but other things. But doing the podcast has made me do it more often. You'll hear something, you'll have the immediate reaction, opinion.
Yeah.
You'll go like try to research it further and be like, oh shit, well they didn't say this. This makes me think of whatever.
Yeah.
And you look into that. Oh well, that's and you go back and forth like 5 or 6 times before you either A, finally form a well-informed opinion, or B, you're just like, I could do this all day. I could go back and forth on this all day. Who knows what the truth is? You should, like, it is what it is. There isn't even always like a right or wrong that we know of.
A lot of times, most times, there's not a right or wrong that we know.
It's like it's a right for what do you want to be
Exactly.
right. That's what people look for is
which you're allowed to think that, you know, whichever way that is. But I think that's a good point into just like keeping an open mind about many things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't agree with this, but I can see why you do agree with this.
Yeah.
But
you
like,
know.
man, open-mindedness is very hard to come by.
Hell
like,
yeah.
It's very hard to come by.
I think
it's easy to say, but people don't want to accept something that they don't believe is their truth.
Yeah.
So it's like, for instance, like whatever you have grown up on believing, whatever your parents have told you your entire life, for someone else to come and be like, well, that's wrong, and here's the proof of it, you know, that'll like fuck up people's worlds type shit. So people move through the world like, I just want to be right. Who wants to be wrong? You know what I mean?
And it's stuff like that, like the open-mindedness, it especially is true when it comes to like judging people. Like, oh, they did this, so they're this, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's when you really got to be open-minded. Like, there are certain things that like you can be informed about and have convictions, like your stances on big things, like I just believe this, or I believe this, and this is what it is, or like 2 + 2 is 4. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can have the courage of your convictions with certain things, and then other things, like I said, especially with judging other people, like, because so much goes into a person, dude, and why they do the things they do, and blah blah. And it doesn't mean you can't say this was wrong, but it's like, let's not take the next step necessarily unless we know.
Well, just like people don't want to research a bunch of stuff and like find out what's real. No one wants to, I wonder why they did this. I wonder what, because there's always a reason, you know what I mean? But
Twitter is bumper stickers, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
it really is.
That's what's so obnoxious about it is, I mean, you guys are the first to know, like, I don't like certain people for maybe how they act or like what they're doing or their values or whatever. But I'm not like on Twitter all day, like slandering their life just to make a point. Like, I just don't fuck with you. I just don't want to be around you. I don't want to follow you, you know, like all that shit. And that's when it gets annoying to me is when, and I mean, I'm a part of this problem too sometimes, but like when you're sitting there and you have your opinions and you don't like this person or what they're saying or whatever. And then like you said, but not quite. I mean, whatever. We'll get back to it. But you're sitting there and you're reading these things and you're just getting pissed, and you're like, just sitting there fuming, like, stop reading that shit and go do something else. And like I said, I do that often, especially like in sports and stuff. I'm just like, the media is just blowing something up, and I'm just sitting there like digging deeper and deeper into it, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Why does
like I'm a loser? Like, why am I doing this? And people do that with like people they know, like on a very small scale.
I think that's why it's not the perfect answer. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it, but the best thing to wrap up this Twitter shit, I guess, is, to me, stop with the banning accounts. Yeah, people need to utilize the block, the mute, that type of shit to better your own. Unfollow to better your own life and your feed. Realize that there's all this other shit out there, and some of it might be literally inherently bad. Like Hitler was bad, dude. I don't care what your value, what your value was off.
He was a good leader.
You got to follow us on Twitter right now.
Right, and like, yes, are there certain things you can do, blah blah blah, but just banning people, I feel like that needs to be a last resort. And just like have people utilize their mutes, their blocks, their unfollows, and like normally, and like I said,
let people educate themselves. You don't need to do it for
And normally
them.
I would expect the better things to rise to the top. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know, but
I mean, that's probably why people have the echo chambers, is because when they get exposed to a different opinion, they start seething and freaking it's like,
sure.
That's where the open-mindedness comes in. Whereas some people, if you can't accept a different opinion, then you're probably not open-minded.
Exactly.
And then you should probably stay in your echo chamber.
And that's another thing about Twitter is you can't have a good conversation about a lot of these topics on Twitter.
No.
Like if you see something, if you see somebody post a bumper sticker thing that you vehemently disagree with, you can't just like in a tweet be like, nah, here's what and then it's just this bullshit back and forth of X amount of characters that like doesn't really get to the heart of it normally. Sometimes, very rarely it can, but normally it's just like, and that's why like, I see shit I disagree with all the time, but it's not like I'm going to just go and be like, nah, bro.
Yo, I saw a bumper sticker today that said, welfare is not a job. I'm just like, why?
Big facts, bro.
Why put that on your car? I just don't understand.
I
just don't get it.
That's a whole nother conversation though, of like, that's what you wanted to put on your car.
That's what I'm saying. Like, despite if you agree with that statement or not, like, you just look crazy.
Dude, that's kind of what I mean with like what I was just talking about when I sit there and like fume on Twitter over some stupid shit. Like the huge important topics and stuff, you got to be open-minded about, especially in this day and age. Like, you might not agree with it, like you said, but you got to see both sides of it in one way or the other, whether you agree with it in your heart or not. But like, why are you just sitting there like
stewing
over something that you're doing to yourself? Like, you chose to put that bumper sticker on your car and like have a negative connotation about it. You could be like, have a bumper sticker that was like, a job is a job. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like looking at the positive side of that, like same.
You still probably get people coming at you.
You would.
We all know what a job is.
What are you trying to say?
See, and they probably got fucked over on some welfare person. You know what I'm saying? There's always a reason. But it's like, you look stupid.
It's just like, find something more positive to put your mind into, and that's no one.
Well,
that shit.
That's not helping anything.
Exactly.
Like that's the thing is like, that's a great example, that bumper sticker, just because that is what Twitter is, and
it just fuels the fire. But those statements just fuel the fire. Like, you can have a real
that. You're not doing anything to further the problem.
You can have a real nuanced conversation with somebody about like welfare, right?
Yeah.
But saying welfare is not a job, like 90% of the people that are like really want the welfare state and agree with welfare and blah, 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 know that welfare is not a job and don't want people just being like, instead of getting a job, I'm going to be on welfare.
That's not the reason for welfare.
So who are you arguing with?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's one of those
You're not
things.
helping the issue.
But all you're doing is getting that side mad and the people on your side like, oh yeah. And it's not productive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was mad confused. Like,
and the people that you are talking about don't give a fuck anyway.
So. No.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is how I feel.
Yeah. That's actually a decent transition into some things to talk about with this Michael Jackson documentary. So, who watched it?
I watched it.
You watched it, Mo?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, because I know you were talking about when you came in here, Dags. You thought you had it pretty well wrapped up.
I would imagine I do.
But basically, it's two people, Wade and James, who were like around MJ throughout their childhoods. And it's super long. It's like 2-part, each like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like 4 hours.
And
total,
they just basically tell their
LeBron.
stories, and but say that he sexually abused them for a while, like in their childhood, and now are coming forward to tell their story and blah, blah, blah. So I watched it recently, and all right. I always, there's multiple reasons I feel nasty about this shit. Obviously, outside of the whole child sexual abuse, like that's nasty.
Yeah.
Talking about someone that can't defend themselves feels grimy to me.
Yeah.
Like I never liked that. Now,
Oh, you mean Michael Jackson?
yeah,
Yeah.
like is it called for sometimes? Absolutely. Like if somebody did some grimy shit and they happen to be dead and you need and it's the truth and you need to say it, it is what it is. But in general, saying shit about someone that cannot defend themselves is
Bro, fuck that. Honestly. I mean, I see what you're saying a little bit, but like when it's something like that fucked up.
I said that. I was like, if some real shit
I'm just saying,
happened,
like those kids
especially
can't defend themselves either.
But-
They
Right.
couldn't when they were little and he was
Absolutely.
doing
They,
nasty
but
shit.
they can like give their side of the tale.
For sure.
absolutely. And so obviously the next level to that is these kids, and I might not get all this straight because it's two different kids, but like basically around like 7 to 10 years old is when they first like met up with him and this shit started happening. And obviously there's a lot that goes into this shit if they spent 4 hours on it, which I'm not going to get into on here. But essentially when at a point when they were kids, when MJ first got his charges against him, they had a chance to, be part of that. And instead they were key witnesses on his side.
Oh, yeah.
That he never did anything to them and never blah, blah, blah. Then this came up again. Am I getting that right, Mo?
Yep.
When the Wade guy was like 21 or 22 and James was a little older, maybe around that same age. And James refused to do anything. And Wade again testified for Michael Jackson, was the key witness.
Yes.
The first one called for Michael Jackson's defense and said that it never happened, blah, blah, blah. Now, I can understand doing that, like based on the story they told, based on all their history, blah, blah. I can understand you just wanting to repress all that and it never happened and no one's ever going to know and I'm going to blah, blah. I can get that. At the same time, it does make me, now that he's dead,
10 years.
there is money to gain.
Yeah.
I have to question that. And so then that's when it comes in of like, this guy's dead and can't defend himself. It's not that like, oh, a pedophile is dead, so you can't say he's a pedophile. It's just the whole story combined. It makes me just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, when it comes to Michael Jackson, I don't think I watched the whole documentary. We'll never know, bro. Like you can make your own guesses because I guess that was my thing about this whole documentary is it was just these two guys telling their story,
Right.
and their families. There wasn't really anything more, like any new info. It was just them telling their stories.
Right.
My thing with Michael Jackson is like before I watched this documentary or whatever, this dude is a creep. Like, and is probably a pedophile, in my opinion. Like, you're sleeping in the bed, you're openly, like, it's not disputed, sleeping in bed with kids.
Right.
Over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
If the guy down the street was doing that, you'd be like, that's a pedophile.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my opinion. Does that mean that he necessarily actually like penetrated them or had sex with them? I don't know. I'll never know. you got these guys telling this story. You got other people, other kids he was around, like Macaulay Culkin and stuff, saying he didn't do that. You got other kids that said he did. He is a celebrity, so people have stuff to gain, but they also have stuff to gain by, like Wade was saying, not coming out and saying anything and keeping their relationship with him and blah, blah, blah. There's so many different sides. I just feel like I'll never know, but no one can tell me that he wasn't a creep. And in my opinion, a probable pedophile.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a betting man, you would have to bet. Like, if you were putting your house on whether or not he was, what side would you go with?
Obvious. What I'm saying is, like, aren't you still a pedophile if you're sleeping in bed with kids that aren't yours?
Like whether look up the definition of a pedophile.
Penetrate them or not, like you said, like you're a creep.
It's probably like attracted to little kids,
right?
So he's a hunt, like
sexually.
I would think
I looked it up before, and what it was is they have a test for it. Actually, I didn't know that, like a personality test for it, and they brought it up in court like twice. Like Michael Jackson took the test or whatever, and both times it came back that he wasn't, based on the fact that the biggest proponent was that he enjoyed doing childish things, and pedophiles fake like they do, but they really don't enjoy that.
What is this test though? Do you like answer questions?
I don't know what the test was, but it actually was evidence in court.
Because he was in there like 93 and 05 or something.
But everybody just kept saying that
trials.
That
seems about right.
He was a child, like he literally was a child.
Well, and that's what everybody on Michael Jackson's side says is, and like he didn't have a childhood, and so he enjoys all. I can get all that as far as like the amusement park, the wanting to play tag, the dude, you know, blah blah blah. I cannot excuse sleeping in bed with kids.
No, fuck that. I like to play fucking games out in the backyard and shit too.
Yeah,
like. I was in the hospital my whole childhood. Like, I didn't get to do some things that I would have wanted to do too. And I'm 30 now, and I like to fucking go, you know, play wiffle ball in the backyard and shit.
Yeah. I don't care.
I'm not like
I don't care
laying
how
in bed with
childish
little
you
kids.
are. Like, there's an age limit.
So,
yes, exactly.
and typically in these situations, and I do again in this situation, bro, where are the other adults around?
Yes.
Yeah. I always get that shit.
This kid's mom goes with him. Hey, can I sleep with? Like, she knows he's sleeping in bed with this guy that you don't even know that well initially.
Right.
But because he's this big star, you're like, word.
Did they say that was the reason? Because he's like a star.
Like,
probably.
In a nutshell, it was like they just all thought he was just a genuine great guy that just loved kids and blah, blah, blah. But obviously, in hindsight, it was like they were drawn into the stardom.
Right.
Like, it was like Michael Jackson is taking interest in my 7-year-old kid. Like, I'm going to make this happen at all costs. Like, the one woman, like, basically left her family in Australia with this kid and went to go pursue this shit with Michael Jackson, like, broke their family apart.
Yeah.
Dude.
Because she was blinded by the stardom.
Yep.
This stardom in general, I hate that shit. It makes me not like any celebrity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't stand when people sit on Twitter or something and they just idolize these people and that's all they talk about, or like in real life, like Beyonce. All I give a shit about is Beyonce. It's like, why? Yeah. I don't get it. I cannot wrap my head around it, and I don't give a shit if I saw Beyonce out in public. If you think I would run over there, especially with the crowd she would have around her, and like,
bro, you ran up to Judge Joe Brown.
There's no one around.
Judge.
Yeah, and I did.
Judge, my
favorite. And you're just like begging for things from them, like sign this piece of paper
or sign me.
Dope.
Yeah.
Like, what does that do?
I'm never
sign my
shower
baby
again.
Yeah, I just can't. Like, I really, honestly cannot wrap my head around that shit. And then to like give your kid to him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I get like the whole memorabilia stuff. Like, I've done that. Like there's people you look up to, like, especially if you're into music or you're into sports, and you get people you idolize, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna get an autograph or a picture or whatever. And I get that stuff. It's the next level to like worship them.
That's what I mean.
Or like,
have my seed.
Yeah, or like you think about them every day. Like,
that's what I mean.
You don't know
like,
them.
They're begging for you. Like you're leaning, like knocking people over.
Yeah.
Like you see these old ass people that like push kids out of the way.
Yeah.
To get LeBron James autograph.
See,
like you're a fucking dork.
And that
I'm sorry, but like the stardom thing, and I don't mean like, yeah, you have a favorite athlete and that's cool. But if you're going to go to these great lengths to have them sign your shirt, you're a loser.
Well, that's the thing that to me, I kept thinking about throughout, like as the docuseries or documentary was winding down, is this kid, I think it was Wade. Was he the one from Australia? I think so. But he
was the one that was like the super popular dancer.
Yeah,
like.
this shit started when he was like 5. And he was getting the hair like MJ. He was dressing like MJ. He got to meet MJ, and they did all this stuff, right? And like at 5 years old or whatever the fuck it was, you're like getting calls, they was like faxing them, like getting calls, talking for hours with Michael Jackson on the phone.
Yeah,
when you're just this little kid, and then the
5
whole
or 6 hours.
The whole next X amount of years of your life is like surrounded by either trying to live up to like to get in on this guy's circle or being in on this guy's circle. And then years and years and years later, all this stuff happens. He ends up dying. Like, dude, this was your childhood. Like this guy.
Right.
It has to fuck you up mentally somehow.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine having a childhood that was literally just built around some other guy.
Well, and I was thinking about it too, because I was just like, especially with this Wade guy, I didn't know a lot about this. This dude like was around Britney Spears and NSYNC and stuff like that, doing all their dance routines for their tours and stuff like that. This guy was in the industry, like eventually. And that's kind of my point is, for me to understand all this, it's like, okay, like there's no doubt that MJ was a pedophile in my head, but you have to understand these kids' mentality of, I don't buy, because this Wade guy, I don't buy the fact that it took you until you had a kid to realize that you were sexually abused. I don't buy it. When you're 20, you should know that, like that you were sexually abused. But I think that there's something going on with, he was really riding the MJ train hard as far as like getting his industry connects from the fact that he knew Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And calling him favors and things like that. His career kind of was semi-dependent on it. So were you afraid of coming out because of 100% like what the world was going to say about this MJ situation? Or were you afraid because it kind of hinged on your career as well?
Okay, you said something in there like about, like by the time you're 20, that shit was bad.
By the time you're an adult, you should know that.
Okay, I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think he ever made the argument that he didn't know.
No, he did. Go back and watch it.
No, he literally said at the end, like, this is not a matter of like repressed memory or whatever. Like, I knew this shit happened, and he just didn't have the balls to come out and say it.
He said he knew it happened, but he said he didn't realize what it was. He didn't realize that it was like, he was getting like his love of MJ confused with what was actually happening. He kept saying that over and over and over again.
As it was going on, yeah, but
no, like his last testimony was when he was 18 or something like that. Like,
yeah, but if you follow his logic, his testimony was a, like, you can't use his testimony, which he's saying was a lie now, as where his head was at. If you're gonna follow that logic, you get what I'm saying?
No,
he's saying now that testimony was a lie.
Yeah.
So you can't go back and say, oh, look, he testified to this, if you're gonna follow his logic.
No, I'm saying his mindset at the time.
And I'm saying it was a lie.
He says it now. What I'm saying is his mindset at the time.
Okay.
He actually believed at the time that was like the truth. He was confused.
No, you got that wrong. When he testified in court the last time, and I'm 90% sure, I'm not going to say but to my knowledge, he knew
I think you're
what
wrong.
he was doing.
I think you're wrong.
You see this
Okay.
shit?
I think you're wrong because
Somebody in the comments tell us.
because that's perjury and he would be going to jail for that.
Okay.
He wouldn't admit that.
I know, but if you follow the fucking vibes of everything that's going on,
I'm saying what he's actually saying. I'm not talking about any vibes.
I actually heard something researching it afterwards that that was the reason why they're suing now, and that was like it isn't just a statute of limitations; it's because he perjured himself. Why it's getting thrown out now?
What's getting thrown out?
Their new lawsuit that was filed in like 2013.
That's a for sure thing that it's getting thrown out.
Yeah, and they're saying statute of limitations. And what I watched some news piece about it, and this guy was just going in on him like it's getting spread around that this is getting thrown out because of statute of limitations. It's not just statute of limitations. It's because he perjured himself in court.
See, I heard the opposite, and I watched something today that was like because they're saying that they didn't know that it was at the time. The clock gets reset for the statute.
It just goes to show that you can like research shit and still not get.
Yeah, I can neither confirm nor deny
Right.
any of this shit.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, now I forgot what your second point in that shit was. But
Scrap right now, both of you.
yeah, I would. I don't know. I mean, do you basically have the same conclusion that I drew from that shit?
What I
That
don't
no one
know.
From the
knows.
overall documentary, like that it didn't give me any like new information that I feel something that I didn't feel about all that shit before.
Right, like you thought he was a pedophile beforehand, before you.
And
see
I
the
didn't know
documentary.
100% sure.
Yeah,
Right,
and
and then
now
after you
I-
see this, you're not like, oh, he's for sure now. But it's like, no, I still feel.
I
the
think
same.
I think he's a pedophile. I've watched videos from both sides and like news stories and whatever. And to me, what it really is it's like, because everybody draws the conclusions like, why didn't Macaulay Culkin like say anything or blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you do realize that there could be like people that he didn't do that
Right.
to.
Right.
Well, I
Like-
heard the same, like, and I think it's a fair analogy is because someone was like, and they tried to make it like this big thing where, oh, a pedophile or a serial child rapist or whatever, if they're around a child, they are going to sexually assault them. It's like, does a serial killer
Kill
every
everybody
person
that he-
they're around?
yeah, no.
Like,
Right.
I don't believe that at all.
yeah, I don't really buy that either.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I do think there are people that he did this to. I think that there's people that he didn't do this to. And, like, I don't even know about those two guys in the documentary. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do believe that he was a pedophile.
Right.
Shit, I don't even know.
He was.
Couldn't tell you.
But yeah, bro, the parents, man.
Yeah,
That's the biggest disgusting thing about
The
this
love
whole
of money,
entire
man.
thing is it's just like
They
dude,
bring them there, bro.
it's
I mean,
yeah, it's fucking.
he was biggest person in the world.
Yeah.
Thank God
It's
we'll
like-
probably never have another star like that ever.
No.
Ever. I don't think today.
Well, because
like,
with social
technology
media now,
allowed
it's
for that.
impossible to have
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
on that big of a pedestal
No.
because you can
Right.
find dirt on them. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
I think that's only a good thing. That's the only good
Well,
thing.
and
that-
I think it came up in court a lot. I didn't look into this, but there were a lot of employees at Neverland Ranch that were like testifying that they had seen stuff and
yeah.
whatever, like
yeah,
him in the
shit.
shower with a kid,
Yeah.
whatever.
But there's counter
Right.
arguments against that too. So
It's like, what'd
I
you do
don't
about it
fucking
then?
That's my thing, bro. It's like I believe you saw some shit there. If you were, they had a bunch of employees, and he's got kids. I believe you saw some shit, but again, they're getting paid well. I'm sure their experience is probably damn good. Probably lived on
Yeah.
the property, like
It's
working
like-
for Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
bro.
You
Like
ain't been
even
getting a check, and now
James' parents, they got a house bought for by Michael Jackson. You think you're gonna be quick to be like, if you don't know, like if your kid says he never touched him, you're gonna be like, hey, James, did Michael ever do anything to you? Did he do anything to you? No, he didn't do anything to me. Okay, you got to have his back in court then, because he's helped his family out immensely.
Well, and that's what I was saying about his career, the Wade's guy's career and stuff like that. Like, dude, this dude lived off of all of that shit.
Yeah.
Like, his life was surrounded around that shit.
Yeah,
And like the dude's gonna think more about like, okay, what do I do after this happens? Like, and And it's not even a guarantee. 2 other people tried to sue him and failed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Shit's fucking weird, man.
Well,
Correct.
Anyway,
still dead.
that's real.
New documentary next month.
Sayonara.
I don't know if I have anything I can just transition to from that.
We can moonwalk into another subject.
Somebody sent me an email wanting to get in touch because they found my shit on Reverb Nation. So
Damn. Remember that shit?
they got to be.
That was the worst.
They got to be some type of creep.
People still check Reverb Nation.
Dude, I fucking hated that website when it was new.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That
Agreed.
website was,
That
the worst ever. Like, what did it do for you?
Oh, shit.
They must have had the best marketing department
Yeah,
ever because
they're like,
everybody was
we
trying
can get
to
you
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
get your EPK started.
send it to
Who
Universal.
the fuck was
Hell,
looking
ain't
at
it?
that shit?
Yeah, no. That was a terrible website.
That shit's crazy.
Oh my god, dude.
So, ever since his last album, Russ has kind of been like relatively on the quiet side. But he fired off a flurry of tweets the other day that I thought were kind of interesting because he always gives pretty decent insight into like independent artist shit. And he doesn't really sugarcoat a lot of stuff. I sent you the DJ Booth article that kind of gave a little synopsis of it, and I think they actually reached out to him
Yeah.
to get like further comment or whatever for their article. Why don't you pull that up? Because he said, you can make millions upon millions of dollars on TuneCore and not have to break anyone off. Stop letting this whole "there's no money in music for the artist" narrative keep circulating. Shit is a lie. Own your shit and be self-sufficient and you'll cake, or be dumb and complain.
Do you want me to just keep?
There's a few like tweets posted on the The music business isn't set up for artists to get rich. It's set up for everyone else to get rich off the artist. Take the power back. Artists are the nucleus. Everything and everyone else is interchangeable. And then I think there was something else if you scroll down a little bit. Oh, they reached out, like one of the last paragraphs. They reached out to him for a comment. Scroll down a little.
That shit's too close, man.
Yeah, damn, bro. Can you expand that? You just read what he said there in that second to last paragraph.
Ooh, there we go.
There we go. He said, I just hate the victim mentality. It's 2019. If you're an artist getting taken advantage of, I don't feel bad for you at all. See, this is where like Russ always has to go a little too far. But I think if you don't end up getting the headlines and getting your point across. So I 85% agree with what he said. I just probably wouldn't take it quite as far. But I've been saying this since we started the podcast. People got to get it through their heads that everyone has different paths. And like your path, and I'm just talking about music and wanting to be like a rapper.
Yeah.
Your path is different than his path and his path. And yes, I'm an independent artist and I will preach the value of independence to the utmost.
Yeah.
Own your shit, do it on your own, blah, 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 blah. If you can. There are plenty of people that cannot do it. And yeah, you could just say, all right, you're not cut out for it, bye. Or other people can come in and help you.
Right.
Like if I had the ability to get signed to a major label when I was 19 or something like that, when we were doing our Green Scheme Specktators shows or something and a major label approached us, I would be way more likely to sign that deal then.
Yeah.
As I maybe would now, like going through all the independent stuff and blah, blah. But the main thing where I totally agree with him is like, if you do that, or if you feel that you need to do that and you do it, stop complaining on the back end.
Yeah, exactly.
Take what it is. Like you did it for a reason, and it was, and whether it went well or it didn't, you're on the hook for just as much as the label is,
right?
For why it worked and why it didn't.
Yeah.
And we just talked about it with that Nipsey Hussle shit, where I was like, create your own leverage.
Right.
When you have leverage, your deal will be better.
Right.
When you don't have leverage, you won't get a great deal.
Right.
But I don't even want to say you won't get a great deal because if you don't have leverage, it's still probably a good deal.
Well, that's the thing about it is it's almost like when you need to get signed because you're not popping as much, you don't have the leverage. And when you stay independent and grind and build this following on your own and then sign because you have leverage, like that's almost kind of backwards in theory.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
it's actually super straightforward though.
Yeah.
Like what you just said
exactly.
makes tons of sense.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna, if you grind and grind and grind and do something with yourself and create that leverage, you risk less and less getting some bad deal or whatever, because you're creating that leverage and you can protect against it because you don't need it.
Right.
Like that's why Nipsey is Nipsey and Chance is Chance and Russ is Russ and all this shit, because they did that grind, they got it, and then when it came time, they did their partnerships, they did their whatever.
That's the key.
And that's why, like, when I read headlines like a while ago when it's like Lil Uzi Vert is not happy with his deal, blah blah, isn't. I don't feel bad for Lil Uzi Vert because he's getting plugged everywhere from his label.
Yeah.
And it would have never happened without it.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
These guys
signed to
forget.
Satan. What the I know he's on the regular.
Bro, it's like, but yeah, I mean, it's funny because like you and I talk about that type of shit all the time, and then like Russ comes out and says it, and it's like this big topic. It's just, to me, that always seemed straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everything else, bro. To you, somebody that can use their fucking brain for 5 minutes at a time, it seems straightforward, but there's a lot of dumbasses out there that just don't get how things work. And I mean, unless you're in the industry or something, you don't understand fully maybe how the ins and outs of everything work. That's like that for every business. But I mean, have an educated guess of, I'm going to take a $2 million contract when I have no following and maybe subject myself to getting screwed over a little bit more because I had this one hot song, and that might be the only hot song I ever have. I'm capitalizing on that now. Or I'm going to grind for 10 years and build up this following on my own and do videos on my own and do everything on my own. And then hopefully by the time that I'm 28 or whatever, I have leverage on all these businesses that want me to come in and help them, because now I'm the one doing this and they're the ones that need to have something to gain off me.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
but it's easier to scratch off a lotto ticket than save pennies and shit.
100%.
Right.
And that's how, I mean, that's a personal choice, I guess, to all these artists. But like you were saying, Peggy, like, don't bitch about it, or you can bitch about it, but I don't give a fuck. Bitch about it as much as you want. But
it's short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. And unfortunately, most people can't think that far ahead.
And dude, that's the other thing. And I will fully admit, I've grown into like being more wise with money and stuff like that as I've gotten older. So I know, me today is different than high school me.
Yeah.
But like Russ said something in his tweets. He was like, y'all signed for $1 million, which really turns into you netting only like $350K, because y'all be having lawyers taking 5% for sitting in an office and managers taking 20%. And then after you get the new rapper, new money starter kit, you're left with like $150K living beyond your means. That's a great point too, because honestly, dude, you get the $1 million advance and you get all the blah, 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 blah. And then by the time it's done, it ends up $150K. Bro, give me $150K. I can make that stretch. Like, that is not bad. No. If you always look at it in terms of, but I had $1 million advance. Yeah, $150K is not $1 million. But $150K is something that 95% of people, 99% of people would love to have. Yeah, so if you just look, like, if you can have somebody around you, have people around you to just, like, that's why I just hate the whole thing going around that it's all bad. Like, anything major label is all bad. Like, I agree. If you can do it independently, do it first and foremost. But then it's like, dude, if you can not be doing shit, really, and then go sign with a major label and end up netting like $150K.
Yeah.
I do that for a job.
Yeah, and to his point, these people are using their money for the wrong reasons. Like, you should be probably using it for a lawyer and for a manager, but you should probably not be using it to buy or lease cars and like doing dumb shit with it. Yep. So that $1 million is now $300K versus $150K because you spent $150K on dumb shit so that you look like a rapper or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's the business-minded person would do it that way, because that gives you more money to invest in yourself.
Yep.
Either eventually after you get off this label or now, depending on what your deal is.
Because that's the other thing with the major labels too, is like, yeah, hopefully you want to make sure you're not getting yourself into a Kanye deal where it's like, I can't, like, I'm signed to you forever.
Right.
But like, if that shit has an expiration date, let's say it's like 5 years or whatever.
Right.
Like, dude, whatever this label is doing for you, like putting you on the radio, getting you on big Spotify playlists, like putting you on commercials, getting your name and your image out there, whatever, bro, when you're done with them, you have so much more, like, then your leverage is there at the end of it.
Exactly.
Like, yo, I'm this massive name now. And so now I can utilize that to go do my independent shit. But it's like, I know a lot of these artists are in too long of deals, like blah, blah. And I know there's lots of shit going on like that. It doesn't always work that perfectly, but that's why you got to pay attention.
Right.
Well, especially with where your money's going, you know, like I feel like the fact that we're talking about, well, this percent went here and this percent went there. Then when you come out with 150K at the end, it makes sense. It's like, okay, I signed for $1 million, but I don't have $1 million. I think most people go into it's like, I signed for $1 million. I have $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even realize where the stuff is going and things like that. So it's awareness. Know where your money's going if you're going to do this.
That's a good point too, because I think people are so quick to place blame, right? Like based on what we just said. Don't you think there would be value in somebody for these artists that was on their team and it'd basically be like a money manager, you know, but basically help them with that shit, right?
Yeah.
Offered their services to be like, look, we're going to make sure you're good financially with the deal you sign, blah, 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 right?
Right.
Okay, so let's say, and I'm sure this is going on already, but let's just say like somebody starts that and they go sign an artist, right? And so obviously they're going to take money for their services,
right.
blah, blah. Well, then all of a sudden down the road, that person starts getting blamed for, oh, he came in and was taking this percent and blah, blah. It's like, it's so easy to just blame people without like actually realizing what they were there to do in the first place.
Right.
Dude, and
because you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like if you didn't need them, why did you start working with them?
Right.
Exactly. And like the NFL or the NBA, whatever, it seems like they're getting more and more of these classes and stuff that you can take on ways to manage your money. But like, I'm so sick of hearing these dudes like, this money's not guaranteed. Like, blah, dude, you got like $8 million signing bonus. That should be enough if you can't ever play football again to start your own business or do what you want to do to make more money or invest or whatever. But you have 3 Bentleys in your driveway and your house is 40,000 square feet and you bought all this unnecessary shit. Like, cool, I get it. Like Giannis, I just read, I don't know if this is factual or not, I think it is, but he gave his like whole first paycheck back to a community in Greece. And he had like no money instantly. Okay, that's not maybe the brightest thing, like maybe manage it a little better.
Than buying cars.
But you had a better idea, a better purpose in mind.
Yeah.
However, I mean, like, I know you want to live the life. But then you can't bitch about not being able to live the life when you don't have the money to do it.
Do you? But stop complaining.
Exactly.
That's the key. Like I agree with you on that, man. It's and then if like okay, the guaranteed money shit, bro. If you end up getting that, like live like you don't have it. Then
exactly.
If it's not guaranteed, live like you don't have it.
Right.
Then if you get it on the back end, awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, I hate like sitting here and preaching about shit that like I am no perfect, like, dude, I got my own issues, but I'm also learning as I go. Like, yeah, when I was 20, bro, and a lot of these kids, these are young kids.
Yes.
Like I thought very differently about a lot of this shit than I do now.
For sure.
It's more just like trying to like drop some knowledge at that than it is like you're stupid. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not supposed to be preachy. It's just it's just like life lesson shit. Like hopefully you can share with people to help them along the way. You know, same way somebody said something to you when you were 20, maybe not about money, but it was about something else or how to, you know, approach people to get them to let you play their venue or whatever.
No,
but I mean, something stuck with you along the way, and that's how you got to think about people when they're trying to give you valuable information. Like, maybe listen a little. You don't have to follow it to a T. You got to do you, and you got to learn your own way. But, I mean, let's not be ridiculous with things. You don't need 5 cars.
Dude, I think
that's a fact.
I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice our whole like American society, including myself, can learn from is live within your means.
Yes.
But know what that is before you even like.
But and the thing, I think a big thing that people have is living within your means isn't as sexy. You know what I mean? Like when you have people around you, so many people live for other people. You know, so you 100%. You literally.
I do it all. I do it all the time, bro. I say I'll come here right now. I say live within your means, and I'll go spend money on some shit that I'll like. The next morning, I'll be like, God, dude, what the fuck were you doing? And
we all know that, you know, we get tons of amazing advice over life. You know what I'm saying? But experience is the best teacher. Like your parents, our parents told us like smart shit to do to avoid a lot of problems that we ran into because we were like, okay, okay, or you were like, okay, but it happened maybe not exactly how they said it, and you know, it's like a lot of these people, these pro athletes, they're young as hell, and just like you said, when we were that young, if we were to have that money, like imagine us hitting East Lansing with that money.
And you don't envision it stopping.
Well, exactly. I think that's the thing is like, and I think that's why there's such a discrepancy with like, because you have young athletes, young artists, all of those. So when you're young like that, you don't appreciate time the same way that an old person does.
Because you're like, I got plenty more.
So, that's the biggest thing is like, because I was even thinking about this. I was watching a video because I was just kind of curious for myself on. I get hit up all the time about like services of like design me this logo or mix this song or whatever. And I never know how to charge anybody for that.
Okay.
And the biggest thing that is so hard to charge, like to really get an idea of how you're supposed to like value that time is like, it's not only the time that you're actually spending on it, it's the time that you took to learn it and do it so efficiently. So I think that's what these young kids forget is like, look at these establishments that are, and I know there's a lot more that goes into this or whatever, but even using it from my perspective is it's like, I have years put into these talents that I have maintained and gotten better over time. You're not just paying me for the 2 hours that I put into the mixing. You're paying me for the fact that I am able to spend 2 hours and get it to sound better than somebody that took 2 hours and just learned it yesterday.
It works with anything, bro. Like think of why lawyers can charge so much. Like you could go have a half-hour meeting with a big-time lawyer and have this massive bill. It's not because that half hour was so much like skin off their back. It was because they had to put in so much time to be on that level and have that expertise.
But to take it even further, though, like you have to look at it from that perspective, though, as far as when we're talking about record labels, when we're talking about certain things that are bigger than what we can understand. Because, yes, as people that didn't have that, we tend to put them in a box and be like, man, that happened quickly and they don't deserve that, whatever they have. And they're up there in, you know, their towers or whatever being like, damn, I did a lot to deserve this. Like I'm deserving of what I'm giving to these artists and taking in return. It doesn't happen overnight. No one can just open up a record label and be like, here's all this exposure, go at it just because they're a record label. It doesn't fucking work like that. So you have to, there is a certain amount of payment that goes along with that. And for the more exposure, it comes along with the more that you're giving up. Because somebody else took the time and the years to put in from the ground up to build that.
And I think that's my thing with all this major label talk, independent, whatever, is for the young artists out there that want to do music and everything. Do as much yourself as you possibly can. And with your small team that you're not like paying everyone to do whatever. Do as much as you can. Then once you hit that point, like I think there was a point a while ago where it was like major label was the only way to go. Now I see it almost flipping where like major labels never go there. That will never like independent all the way, like artist ownership, all this stuff, which I co-sign in the right situations. But there are situations where someone could come to me and be like, hey, do you think this is a good idea for me to sign with them? And I would be like, absolutely. And I'm sure there's many major label acts today that are sitting there like, man, that was amazing for me to sign with them.
Well, can you sit there and be, dude, imagine like yourself being just the laziest person in the world and having the the wherewithal and the knowing yourself to know that about yourself.
Right.
Like you didn't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
Sign a record label, dude.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere if you're not willing to do it.
Yeah.
To that point, 100%, take it one step farther and be smart with your money that you make from that and don't do all the dumb shit.
Exactly.
And that's the thing is, I think so many of these people are doing that because, like you said, they are young. But who are they looking at? They're looking at all these other young dudes that are just doing that shit.
Yeah.
And that's why, personally, and I know there's plenty, like J. Cole is a great example. It seems like 21 Savage is kind of like this, even though he doesn't necessarily talk about it in his songs.
Yeah.
But it seems like in real life he's kind of like this. But like you said, live within your means, but follow people that are also living within their means to a certain extent, you know, because that's who you're taking these lessons away from. If you listen to Lil Pump, you're going to think you need 10 cars and like 10 chains and all this other shit. If you listen to J. Cole, you might have a different takeaway on some of the stuff that he's got, and he's 10 times more successful.
Is that an echo chamber?
Is what?
Did we just come full circle?
Yeah. Dude, like honestly, J. Cole and like Drake even are good examples of they got some notoriety on their own.
Yeah.
But not to like the whole wave of independence that we see today with like Nipsey and Chance and stuff like that. Yeah. But they got a little bit of mixtape notoriety and signed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like not quickly probably in their eyes. Like they put in I'm not saying that. They put in a lot of work on their own, but
Fairly
in
early.
general, they signed to major labels and are thriving.
Yeah.
And I'm sure major labels have made lots of money off J. Cole and Drake.
Oh, for sure.
But you don't hear them being like, that's bullshit. Like you hear Drake all the time showing appreciation for like Wayne and Young Money, and it's the business.
Because he knows what it is.
And as talented as he is, if he hadn't signed, there's a very, very, very small likelihood that he'd be as big a star as he is today. Almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I'm saying is yes, independence is great and it's the #1 option in my opinion, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
No.
You got to be built for it.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Nobody Epic for the $10 super chat.
Hey, nobody.
He says, not sure if you already spoke on this because I never watched the live and listen later, but shouts out to Martha Ford for spending that cash.
Yeah.
Hey,
Lions
let's
Super
get
Bowl
that.
2020, suck it Packers.
We're basically the Detroit Patriots now.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Right. Yep. Lions making moves. That's good to see. Dude, Pistons.
Yep.
Yo,
They're
you all know I was a huge skeptic
Yeah.
on the Blake shit. And
I
you
was
tweeted
too.
that shit the other day that, you know, he's coming around.
Yeah. And I like his attitude more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good player, but I like his attitude. And dude, what are we, the 6th seed right now? It just depends on who we get, who we draw, I think.
Can
in
you
that first
believe
round.
that Blake wanted to come to a place like Detroit and like play basketball? Like it's not
No.
LA. Can you fucking believe it?
I thought he'd want to come
Like,
here
holy
and
shit,
fucking
dude.
take all the money.
God,
and
people
shit.
are so stupid. Like, let it play out for a day. Like, I get you might not like Blake as a player, but
Correct.
everybody better stop their damn arguments all the time with the like, he's not coming here. That's a small market. Maybe he's not coming here because it's a small
He didn't
market.
choose to come here, though.
I understand, but people were just like, he's just coming here for a year and he's gonna just not give a fuck because he's Blake Griffin and he's injured all the time. And well, he's here and
He's balling.
and he's playing hard and he seems to like the guys he's playing with, at least from the outside looking
No,
in.
that's like what we talked about with competitiveness is he very well could be like, if his contract was up at the end of this year, he could not want to stay in Detroit.
Yeah.
That's totally different than when I'm here, I'm going to fucking compete
Exactly.
and ball and do the right things.
Exactly.
You got to appreciate people. Like I think we assume that people aren't that way when I think actually the majority of people are that way.
Yeah.
Like they're going to do their best regardless of if they're in the best situation.
Right.
Yeah, you would hope.
What about Antonio going to the Raiders? The Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty random, but I think he like
He cashed out.
fits
Dude.
that mold kind of.
He and Le'Veon, they've turned me off with all this shit.
For sure.
I was big fans of both of them before like this last season, and
They
I agree.
because to me they're both situations are pretty different.
yeah, but I guess they are different. I like Antonio. I just don't like his like diva fucking attitude personally.
Right.
Agreed.
And then I mean Le'Veon's similar. They come across as just like, I don't know, almost like the opposite of what we were talking about with the competitive shit.
Yes.
They don't, at least Le'Veon for sure. Antonio's at least out there balling, but I don't know, man. They just rub me the wrong way.
I agree. I mean, you can kind of it's the same thing we have to talk about. I really don't need to do this, but you can kind of understand like Le'Veon's I'm not getting guaranteed money. Like I don't want. What if I get injured? Blah blah. Dude, what if you get injured?
Yeah.
Fuck. Who cares? Like you can get injured. Like John Wall walking around his house, he blew his Achilles.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're playing for free.
Right.
It's not like you can talk about guaranteed money, but there's a lot of guaranteed money. Like when you're franchise tagged, like you're getting paid.
And you've let it go on
but I guess,
for so long.
I don't have a problem with him getting what he thinks he's worth.
I don't either.
And doing whatever he thinks he has to do that. I mean, I agree with you. Like you get franchise tag, you're getting like 12 million or something like that. I don't know.
Like 19. It could be, maybe it's per position though.
Yeah, I think that's because I think he only wanted. I think he wanted like 16 or something like that. Okay.
But I think it's 19, but it's only 1 year. So like there's no long term. Whereas if he signed a contract and wanted like 16 or whatever, he would also want like an X amount a year.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think the franchise, I think it's 19. At least that's what it was, I think, when Kirk Cousins was franchised. Because I remember that number floating around.
It might be more for quarterbacks.
Could be.
Probably.
But yeah, I just overall, like you said, I don't have a problem with anybody wanting their money, anybody doing what they feel like they got to do. I just don't like. And Antonio seems like a me guy in the locker room.
For sure. Well, especially
Antonio's one thing.
I didn't think Le'Veon was, like whatever, but like Antonio's like in there with his IG live and like he's just trying to make everything like a mockery. It seems like it's like I wouldn't want that dude in my locker room or even as a player. Like, you might be a cool guy to hang out with on the beach or something, but you, as far as a competitor goes, you seem like you're kind of
both great players though.
Yeah, I mean,
fire up chips.
Yeah, and that's why I want. Like, we got a state guy and a central guy. I want to like him.
Right.
But yeah, it just is what it. I mean, dude, sucks for the Steelers. Like, possibly like the best wide receiver, best running back. You had him, and it's just didn't really.
They stood their ground though. They took 2 shit draft picks for Antonio Brown,
and they're taking that 21 milli cap hit too.
Mm-hmm.
They said
we'll see.
They said I'd really say fuck you.
Yeah. Well, shit.
I don't know if it's a smart move.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say hopefully the pride doesn't come before the fall.
Yeah.
In that case,
it's probably not like as far as like this year Antonio could go ball out and blah blah, and it's like it's not a good short term. But they were like, we've had enough. You know what I'm saying?
Peace of mind is priceless.
Yeah,
definitely seems like they could have got a bit more for him.
I forgot to say this the last couple of podcasts, but shout out, congrats to Sam Davis.
Oh yeah,
young Oscar winner.
Yay.
For those that don't know, Sam shot our campaign video.
That's right.
He's from Potterville, Michigan.
Bark.
And out in LA doing big things. So that's huge, bro.
Yeah,
so congrats to Sam Davis.
I gotta shout out whoever suggested us eat that
pizza. Yeah, other than that, I don't really got shit. So Q, get your shout out off and
yeah. It's
Sean
Spinard.
Sean Spinard.
Sean _Spinard.
Shout out for the
Good
pizza
look,
idea.
Bro. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, we got new Apollo coming Friday.
That shit's hot, everyone. That shit's hot.
And 4 and
hot fire.
Oh, and Apollo's doing the Spec 16 on Saturday.
Ooh,
oh yeah,
that'd be good.
Appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, bike. Was a